Bravo, Bryce. It's wonderful to hear you again. And I applaud the great work that you've done on this. First thing I want to do is give you a couple of licenses to trill, all right? And that is, actually, let me show you what I'm reading from. Here's, this is the manuscript. Now I take all of this in the left hand, so that we can go. How do you like that?
Yeah, that's what I practiced, but it kind of fell apart.
Well, here's another thing though. We spoke a little bit in yesterday's class about this whole new class of agogic, which is to say that he could very easily have written this passage like this, right? The fact that he didn't, the fact that he goes, means that he wants a lot of attention to putting on the brakes, not just in one quarter note, but in two quarter notes. And so then we have a very strong and sturdy ending as a result of that. So I think in light of the fact that we're trying to make a nice big climax of this moment, we need the trill, I think. And the fact, Bryce, if it's a train wreck, there's a solution for that, which is to allow the things that are taking more time, allow those to dictate the time. And as I'm saying, it gets difficult here, so that's the time that we need. That's the time that's reflected in the density of events that is going on in this piece at this time. Okay? I want to make a couple of general comments. One is having to do with the 16th note theme, which is very, very much like the one in C sharp minor. The one that's the first theme is Christ, the cross motive, and there's the nails in the cross, and then those are supposed to be streams of healing, and so there's an intent for water there. There's an implication of water, but there's a very much more explicit implication towards tears. Streams of healing are tears. And so when I thought about that, and this is an absolute mirror image, these 16th notes, because I used to think of the 16ths in the C sharp minor and in this one as very motoric, as things that are generating excitement. But I came, when he actually said, that about the tears of healing, I thought, well, maybe we can use the inner things of the inner dynamics. So sorry. So when we go up, we go up. When we go down, we go down. So this is actually one of the few moments where we're actually doing it in a rising sort of motive, so we do want to generate some excitement with it. But most times, I think I'd like you to address this, look at it from the standpoint of the general contour of the 16th notes, but the more intricate part of the dynamics I want you to look at is the note to note. And so I don't want you to generate sound. I don't want you to generate sound with these 16ths. I want you to use them as tears of healing, because that's what he said they are. Okay, and that was a complete shock to me. But because I really thought the 16ths were there to generate that kind of excitement. But in this one and in the C sharp minor, it's really a question of adding a more fluid sense of healing, and not really excitement, but just engagement, I think. Yeah, exactly. And we can use Busoni's, re-beamings of these. So we never need to be. There's never any room for that. Now, I wanted to speak briefly about the the, the trills of the second theme. Well, actually, we should probably go to the statement of the fugue subject itself, because I find that it's this is the moment where I really feel like we need to have. That's a beautiful fall, and it's very much sort of the mirror image of the falling fifth here. Is the template, or is the companion piece to the falling fourth that the F sharp minor prelude begins with. So if that is that's the gesture we have in mind as the peak of this, I tend to think of this a little bit more as we would naturally do them. We want to connect that, but here I think we're basically outlining a chord. I don't really feel compelled to really state the theme note by note. I'd like to try and state the theme in terms of overall gestures. So we have an F sharp minor chord, but we're still in light of our contour dynamics. Whenever we have a falling motive, we like to have some sense of falling dynamic strength. And then there's that minor sixth, which is a big surprise. But then we resolve it. That's a resolution. It's not a new thing, right? That's all it is. It's a resolution. And now here's our main event, right? But still, we want to have that be sort of connected. They're not two events, they're one gesture. And then the mirror image on the opposite sides, just as we have. I tend to decide to do this trill, not as a real exciting thing, but just as an embellishment. And I'm also thinking ahead about. I want to start the counter subject from a place below, so that we give the opportunity for the next voice, the next entrance, to come in the way it wants to. It doesn't have to come in if we don't present it that way. If we also we're now in this counter subject. We're going to want to rise with the line dynamically. So if we want to do that, we want to make sure that we don't start too loud too soon, because we want to leave enough room, even with the idea of making a rise, for the right hand. And when we trade back and forth between these voices, Bryce, think of the function of these. So before, this is a resolution. It's not a new entrance. It's just a resolution. Just as I like to. I mean, I see these tandem lines, and I want to break them up. So I make that a pair in both hands. And now a new one. And we can actually do a switcheroo and actually make this one, make that one grow instead of die, really go against the expectation. Now here's the place that's really difficult. And this is why it's absolutely essential that we get very, very fussy about all of these entrances. Because it's even better reason to make a distinction between notes that we want to make powerful but not connected. I'm trying to make I like that. I just like it. And when we have the next entrance, this is the first strong note, not this. It's a pretty strong note, but not as strong. Copy it. Now here we go. Watch this. Because we're finishing this. That's the least of this. And then we have to make this fairly strong. You see what I'm doing there? Look at this. You see what's going on in the score? So this is at the beginning of this little triad. So that's going to be least. But the least in the right hand is going to be the most in the left hand. Right? And now the one right. This is actually going to be fairly strong. Do you see how they're dovetailing? All of these are dovetailing. And so we have to have we can have just a consistent function for them. But that consistent function means that they are doing opposite things to another voice simultaneously. And this makes it very difficult. But if there's ever any doubt about what you should be doing at any given moment, the two questions I ask myself are three questions really. The three questions I ask myself are: number one, am I being true to the directions of these competing voices, of these complementary voices? They're often doing opposite things. Do I want to make sure that I'm projecting that opposite activity in these simultaneous voices? That's number one. Number two, can I make distinguished voices by virtue not of, let's say, dynamics so much or articulation so much, but by agogic? And so, for instance, I can wait a little bit longer for this B, and that's great because that we want that to be a strong entrance. Hear that? Just a little bit of tenuto so that we hear the beginning of that motive. The point is, we really have to train this, and I think we can do it dynamically, articulatively, and with agogic. So we want to make sure that we're following dynamically the lines and respecting each contrasting line, and figure out a way to make them all do very well. spoiler alert, if you're not satisfied with the balance that you're achieving, it's usually because you're not making one of the voices more transparent. That transparency can also be a matter of length. The more we have a transparent texture, the lighter we have our articulative plan, the more chance there is for the singing voice to come through. I just want to say a brief note about the prelude, and that is just to say, and again, I'll just give you sort of a hint and let you go off about it. We want to give as much warmth and connection as we can to that falling motive. And as much as we want to sing it out, the only note we need to sing is the first one. And then we just have to make a convincing fall. And that has to be convincing not only in terms of the sound, but actually we should let the sound dictate how that should proceed. And now we get into foreground and background. I find that the sixteenths tend to be rather singing, rather lyrical, but I don't agree that the triplets should be as lyrical as the sixteenths. I think we get into this, well, if we just look at it as an element, as a subject. So it's really, so you hear how the second and third I'm making, they're really just like falls in a voice of Bing Crosby or something, you know? And that gives us a sort of a hint about how we should really think about those 32nd, those 16th note triplets, because there are actually very few places in this prelude that we really want to sing out like crazy. But that happens. Maybe the recap would be a nice place to do that. Yeah, or yeah. But most other times, I'm really thinking of these as very retiring. Do you hear how we're hearing the contour and we're hearing a sense of the main notes, the foreground and the background. And it's so nice of him to give us this in no uncertain terms, schematically. If we see eighth notes, that's definitely a time to put down roots. If we see the 16th notes, it's a good plan to think lyrically. With that in mind, I actually want to take a moment and again give our sense of agogic, the sense of give and take between the lower and upper voices. So you hear what I'm doing. I'm not doing this. I'm making every two notes is a relationship. Okay? I also look at it from a relationship standpoint in terms of the harmony. That's a leading tone. It's not a new motive. That's pretty exciting. We can't make it a total shrinking violet. You know, we have to. I think that third, even if it wasn't a wrenching harmonic change, would still be reason enough instead of these. Those dissonances are relative. And let's look at another passage, a similar passage. And I'm tempted. Oh, a nice big chord. Why not make that ring like crazy? But he writes it not as a chord, he writes it as a duet. And so we still have to look at it from the standpoint of the texture. What is he saying with the texture? And it's still pretty light. But now he develops that he develops that arpeggiation, and that's probably a good clue that he wants us to get a little bit louder. You hear how I'm also adding a little bit of a Gogic to these rather wrenching and sudden dissonances. So, for instance, that moves along very nicely because we know what the harmony is. We never heard that before. How loud do we have to play this? Not really that much. We also are not on a clock. Actually, you know what? That's a wonderful way of deciding how we want to start this piece. From here. I've never made a better sound in that passage. I really believe that. I think if you actually think about that'll solve a lot of problems. But yes, think seriously. I don't mean to put you on the defensive, but just going by the main notes, the more we call attention to them by virtue of being connected, we become too conscious of the relationship as being absolutely consistent between every two notes. And what we want for the fugue subject is there's a syllable, that's an element. That's a very sudden dissonance that is immediately resolved in a proud militaristic way, and then the real tour de force of this subject. We retreat and begin again. The more we really allow these elements to really lead us everywhere, then we recognize them as we go through this piece. And this is a very long piece. All of this material comes back in various different guises, and it's very, very important that we react and project that reaction extraordinarily. It may seem like a burlesque. It may seem like we're doing too much. I have yet to hear it, and I really appreciate, Bryce, how much you have really put into this, in both the fugue and the prelude. It's extraordinary how much intelligence, how much I hear voices in your playing, and I really applaud that, and I really appreciate it. It was wonderful hearing you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much.